Greetings, fellow Rotarians and guests. My name is Joe Young, and it's my honor to serve as the 2020-2021 President of the Rotary Club of Columbus. Founded in 1915 with our first meeting in February of 1916, our club is one of the oldest and largest within Rotary International. Our membership includes a diverse set of leaders within business, city government, military affairs, healthcare, education, arts and culture, social services, and ministry, all sharing a common desire to improve our community and have a positive impact on the world around us. Following the suspension of in-person Rotary meetings for many months, it is so nice for our club to once again have the opportunity to gather in person here at the Trade Center. For those of you that have not yet returned to our in-person lunch meetings, please know that we are saving you a seat and look forward to having you join us again soon. On behalf of my wife Vicki and our daughters Katie and Lynn, I want to thank you for all that you are doing to make our community a better place to live. It's my pleasure to serve alongside you. Now let's get to work. Greetings everyone. Welcome to the May 26th meeting of the Rotary Club of Columbus. So great to see a very full room today. We're going to have to add some tables and chairs for the coming weeks, which is a fantastic problem to have. We've got some first-timers today. It's great to see you guys. For those of you that are joining us online, we look forward to having you back in person again soon. I'm going to call on Cedric Hill. Well, let's first say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to call on President-elect Cedric Hill, or President nominee, soon to be President-elect Cedric Hill, with today's invocation given in accordance to his faith tradition.
Thank you, President Joe. What's in a name, right? Join me together in your own way as we ask a prayer upon our meeting today. Father, we thank you so much for the great privilege you give us at life. We lift up our world and our nation and all that is going on right now as we all know it. We thank you, thank you for everyone that's here in this meeting. We thank you for this membership and this agenda for today. We specifically thank you for our speaker and the things that he shall bring and things that we shall learn today. And we just simply ask that you would open our hearts, open our ears, and open our minds, that we could be in a position to begin to do things differently as necessary in the days and weeks and years and months to come. Most of all, we thank you for health and strength and life that you've given each one of us. All this we ask in your name, we pray. Amen. And I left the can, but if we want to ask you today for 100% participation in our cans, if we could get you to do that. I'm just asking you for $1 each. Thank you.
Thank you, Cedric. As you guys take your seats, we've got a number of visitors and guests here with us today. It's my pleasure to call on Teddy Price to come up and introduce folks for us.
Thank you, President Joe. We've got a healthy slate of visitors today. Walter Calhoun has Tom with him today. Thank you. John Stacy has a couple of guests. His daughter, Janet Newman, is with us today. And Carol Gledhill. Sadna Daly has her husband with us today, Mike Daly. Dr. Elder has his son, Johnny, with us today. And then David Hart has Chuck Williams and Phil Scoggins visiting with us today. Thank you all.
Thank you. Great pleasure to have all of you join us today. Hope you'll come back and see us again soon. It's our custom as a club every week. We have an opportunity to honor an active duty soldier at Fort Benning, and we're so glad to have someone with us today. I'm going to call on Vern Humphrey with today's introduction.
President Joe, fellow Rotarians, it is my pleasure once again to introduce a nice hero to you. Sergeant First Class Nelson is not only a soldier. When I read his bio, the first thing I said was Semper Fi. For those of you who know, he's a Marine as well. He graduated high school, joined the Marine Corps, did a couple of tours with Afghanistan and some other nasty situations, earned some humanitarian aid medals on those missions, got out of the Marine Corps. And I would like to say he saw the light and joined the Army, but he went to college for gunsmithing. And the fine institution the Army is, the marksmanship unit, him because they knew he was going to be one of the best. He's married to Amanda for 13 years. They have 3 girls, ages 10, 9, and 6 months. I told him he's a glutton for punishment. So we have for you a Rotary challenge coin. You know what to do with that, I'm sure. We have a gift card for River Center, Columbus Symphony Orchestra, Columbus State University Theater, Springer Opera House, and the National Infantry Museum. So get you a babysitter, take your wife out for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Nelson.
I'm not much for words, but I just want to say thank you for having me out here, and we appreciate your support of Fort Benning and the Armed Forces. Thanks.
Sergeant First Class Nelson, we extend our gratitude to you and the men and women that serve alongside you there at Fort Benning. You honor us with your presence, and we just want to tell you how much we appreciate all that you're doing for our country and our community, and hope that you'll join us as a guest again sometime soon. Appreciate it. Always a great day in Rotary when we get to bring on a new member, and it's my pleasure to call on Steve Davis with our newest Rotarian introduction.
Thank you, President Joe and fellow Rotarians. It's my privilege to introduce our newest Rotarian, but I need to ask the indulgence of the club. I would like to break the four-way test by telling a bit of a lie about Kevin, and the reason for that lie is for you to find out what the lie is. It gives you a way to try to get to know Kevin. So I'm going to read his bio, and embedded in that bio is a lie, and hopefully Kevin's not going to telegraph it by his reaction. So this is Kevin White, lives in Catawba with his wife Susan. He has a daughter Madeline and a son Sawyer. Kevin enjoys outdoors, playing golf, hunting, fishing, and camping. No reaction, okay, it's good. Stay stoic. He earned both a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Georgia Tech and a Master of Business Administration from the University of Georgia. Still doing a good job, not telegraphing anything. Kevin joined Columbus Waterworks in 2014 and is responsible for leading the efforts of the engineering team. He has served the engineering industry since 1997 and has a diverse background in design, executive management, and a faculty role in higher education. Kevin stays active within the Columbus community, serving the Harris County Little League, Boy Scouts of the Chattahoochee Valley, Northside Christian Church, Harris County Chamber of Commerce, and previously as a loan executive for the 2015 Chattahoochee Valley United Way campaign. So, welcome, Kevin. Glad to have you aboard.
Well, thank you, Steve. Just wanted to say I'm glad to be here, glad to be part of this group. Looking forward to serving with you, everybody, and fellowshipping with you as well. So thank you.
Kevin, I'm sure Steve has communicated this to you, but our club is club number 200 out of over 35,000 clubs worldwide. We've been at it for over 105 years, so a tremendous legacy of service, and we're glad to have you joining us in those endeavors going forward. Welcome aboard. Several announcements I want to share with you guys. We want to extend our congratulations to Ralph Puckett and his family in celebration of his Medal of Honor recognition. I hope that all of you had an opportunity to see the wonderful news coverage that took place on that. Chuck and Phil here with us, you did a marvelous job, and for those of you that have not yet seen that, there's going to be an encore special Monday at 5:30 p.m. right in WRBL. So appreciate them doing what they did so that all of us could participate here from Columbus, and that's fantastic. And we hope, once Ralph's feeling up to it, that we'll get him back in here for all of us to be able to celebrate with him. Mark your calendars for Friday, June the 25th. Friday, June the 25th. We're going to have Rotary Day at Fort Benning. You'll remember General Donahoe, when he was here in October, said that he wanted to host us out at Fort Benning before the end of the year, and that's going to be the day. The plan is to meet in the morning sometime around 9:15 at the National Infantry Museum parking lot, where we'll board buses, and then from there buses will take us out to Victory Pond where they have the Ranger graduations. There's going to be a Rangers in Action exhibition that day, and if you've never gone to that, it is so cool. I mean, you feel like you're in an action movie. They're jumping out of helicopters, they're blowing stuff up, so really, really neat, and you'll get to see the Rangers graduate. We're going to go from there. We'll have lunch there, and we'll go and see a tank training support facility. General Donahoe's a tank guy, so he really wants to show us some tank stuff. So we'll be like, yeah, we can do that. All the infantry retirees that we have, it's like, yeah, we'll put up with that for a little bit. And then we're going to finish the day at Riverside, where the commanding general and his family reside while they're on post. I personally have never toured that facility, but they're going to have a dessert social for us. We'll have an opportunity to tour Riverside, and then we'll go from there back to, retrieve our cars at the Infantry Museum. So full day, probably 9 to 4, if you're making your schedules, but I hope that many of you will come. And we are requesting RSVPs so that we know how many buses we need, and also, lunch preparation. So please let us know if you're planning to be there. Friday, June the 25th. President-elect Lori and I have been actively preparing for the new Rotary year coming up. So that Rotary year cuts off on June the 30th, and so July the 1st, she will be officially your president. We're going to have the change of leadership presentation on that Wednesday, July the 7th. Last year's program, it was about 8 of us in a Trade Center ballroom, just putting it on just for the virtual broadcast, but this year we'll actually get to have everybody together. We've got a tradition of lining up all the past presidents in front of the head table, and that's always great. And so we want everybody to come to that. Please plan to be there Wednesday, July the 7th. If you're in town, this is where you want to be. I've mentioned this a couple times before, but just a reminder, we've got August 13th through 15th is the district party that's going to be taking place in Sandestin. Many of you have already indicated that you're planning to go to that. There's still time. Those of you that want to come in, we can save a spot for you, but please do let us know if you're planning to attend. You've noticed the room is full today. We had some folks searching for seats, and we'll add some tables and chairs, but we've created a standing RSVP list, much like I know the First Baptist Wednesday night dinners when we were having those. You're going to be there unless you call and say we're not going to be there. So those of you that are not already on the standing RSVP list and you're planning to be here, please do let us know, ideally by this Friday for next week. Those of you online that are planning to come back, please let us know. We want to have as many people as possible, but we just need to know in advance so that we can make sure that there's enough space for everybody. At the head table, we've got here Cedric Hill giving us the invocation. I'm going to call on John Stacy to introduce today's program.
Thank you, Mr. President, fellow Rotarians. It's good to see Phil Scoggins here with WRBL News. So, Phil, you can renew your membership, and you can do the news. So, kind of miss all that, some of the old folks, but glad to have my daughter here today, and Carol from Covenant Care from Atlanta. So, thank you for coming to see your father. It's good to see you. We'll make a next visit next year. So, come on back down to Columbus. So, it's a great pleasure to introduce a law enforcement guy who believes in law enforcement, has served many years, 31 years in law enforcement. Sheriff Countryman comes from Plains, Georgia, and I know most of you have heard of Plains, but he also has a cousin who is the sheriff in Sumter County. So they're trying to cover the eastern coast. So we can do that. Sheriff Countryman has a lovely wife, Angela, and 3 great sons. I've met one of them who is really a top-notch young man, Sheriff. He is just he's a class act, and if he's like your other children, you've done a great job. So great job. So 30 years in law enforcement, as I said. The sheriff is no stranger to Muscogee County. He started and has worked in the sheriff's office, ran the marshal's office for 16 years, and last year the General Assembly consolidated the two departments, and he's been drinking from a fire hydrant with two departments coming under the sheriff's department, the marshal's office and the sheriff's department. Has a huge hotel that he has to manage with about 900 guests at any given time. So, and he does the feeding and the medical and the dental and the counseling and all this stuff for all those 900 with a lot of help. But one of the things that Sheriff Countryman has done is if you've been on his webpage or if you've been on his Facebook, you see periodically the guns and the drugs that are coming off the streets. And that's a breath of fresh air living in Muscogee County and having an active law enforcement agency who is taking the guns and he's working with the Marshal's Department, U.S. Marshal's Department of Federals, and he's working with the ATF and working together with the intelligence of gathering where the crime is happening and who's doing the crime. So I don't know if you know it, but if you go to federal court, it's day for day. So there is no probation, I mean, later on, but you don't get paroled. You get 18 years, you do 18 years. So I'm encouraged that some of these folks, that's not a revolving door, and it takes everybody in this city in the crime-fighting efforts to bring our city back under whatever is normal. I don't know what's normal anymore, but Sheriff, I appreciate the selective enforcement that your deputies are doing under your leadership in doing this. He's a graduate of Baker High School, so he's a local gentleman who grew up right here in Columbus. He has a bachelor's degree from the Military College of Georgia of Bachelor of Science. As Troy State has a master's in public administration. Columbus State University has a master's in political theology from Ohio Christian University. He has also bestowed a doctorate of philosophy from the Christian Counseling in St. Thomas Christian University. But most of all, he's in his law enforcement career. He's a graduate of the Georgia Regional Command College, which is started by Columbus State University. I think Laura had some things to do with that when the college started. And graduate of the FBI Leeds Academy from the FBI. The Command College is one of the premier law enforcement programs in the state of Georgia, as started by Columbus State University and the Georgia Police Chiefs Association. They come from all over the United States to attend this academy here in Columbus at Command College. Sheriff, I don't want to take any of your time because I know that there's going to be a lot of questions that's going to be asked. You're the chief law enforcement officer of the county, and there's only 159 of them in the state of Georgia. So, Sheriff, thank you. Welcome to Rotary Club.
Thank you, Mr. Stacy, for the kind and warm introduction. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that you looked in my folder and you looked at my notes and you got up to the podium and everything that you covered in your introduction is what I wanted to cover. Good afternoon, Rotarians. It's an honor to be here today, and I promise you that I will try not to be long-winded, but I think one of the worst things that you could do is get a politician and a minister to the podium to speak in front of a lot of people. I happen to be both. And so Judge Richardson has already given me my marching orders. He said, keep it short. And so in the spirit of that, Judge Richardson, I will speak for the hour that you gave me. But I just want to talk with you briefly today about the Sheriff's Office, my vision, and the transition of going from the Marshal's Office to the Sheriff's Office. As you know, that the Marshal's Office has been around since 1831 in Muscogee County. The Sheriff's Office has been around since 1828. And so those are two elected offices. And so It's a historical piece for me as well because I would be the only person in Muscogee County history that has actually held both elected offices. And so that's something that I cherish. But the transition has been going great. The merger has been going great. And the sheriff's office is not new to me. I've worked in the sheriff's office before. I see Lieutenant Daly is here. He heads up our court services, and he does a great job. But I have him here too because of Mr. Stacy here, that he may elbow me here from here and there. But the changes and the challenges of the office has been great. I guess that my greatest challenge as being sheriff is the Muscogee County Jail. Each day I wake up, I'm responsible for over 950 inmates within the county jail. That your tax dollars pay for their medical, their dental, the mental health. Mental health is one of the greatest challenges that we face in our community today. Although that we may have over 950 inmates within the Muscogee County Jail, approximately 400 of them suffer from mental health issues. And so this is something that we have to come to grips with in our community, not just in our community, but in our nation. Mental health is such a great challenge for our nation that even the Time magazine did a magazine solely about mental health. And so this has been a great challenge for us. But one of the things that I recently did in this year's budget, and I'm grateful for the council for, is that I was able to reclass a medical position to be a licensed clinical social worker, and so that we can better address the mental health needs of those within our Muscogee County Jail. Because it's tough that law enforcement officers, they go through crisis intervention training, but when you get that emergency call, there's only so much that we can do. And when we go out here in the community, that we are dealing with things that other people sometimes run from, but it is a huge challenge. But my vision for the sheriff's office is to have better working relationships with the community. We look at what's going on nationally, and we see that there is a distrust for law enforcement, that we have some great challenges that are out there, but I'm very, very thankful for the men and women within the Muscogee County Sheriff's Office, that they have taken to the vision that I'm trying to bring to the office of the sheriff. That we recognize that there are some challenges there and that we are trying to move forward to recognize those. But I think that before we can deal with any challenge in our community, our state, our nation, that we have to first recognize that there's a problem. And the sheriff's office have come to grips with that, and we are working towards that. We've established a community outreach unit that goes into the community and deals with community issues. We go into the senior citizens home. We deal with the kids that are in the neighborhoods. We work with different business groups in the community, AmeriGroup. We go out and we deal with things in the community, and we meet the community where it is. But one of the things that I've been able to do with the staff in the sheriff's office is to, sometimes in law enforcement, that we hear the bad things. That's all that we hear are bad things. But in the sheriff's office, what we do there is we recognize our employees and what they do right. And for the most part, we get it right in the sheriff's office. But one of the biggest topics that I hear as sheriff is about crime in our community. I have a different philosophy when it comes to crime in our community. When I worked for Housing Police, I worked on a vice drug task force that helped reduce drug-related crimes in public housing by 50% in 1 year. I think that we can accomplish the goal if we all stick to the mission, because my goal as sheriff is to make sure that every citizen of Muscogee County has a better quality of life. That means that when you go to the grocery store, your wife goes to the grocery store, that they should be able to go and do that in peace. One of the things that I hate to hear are senior citizens that can't sit out on their porch and just enjoy life. We have various areas in our community that may not look like the Columbus that we know. I'm a product of South Columbus. I'm a proud product of South Columbus. But South Columbus, in many parts of Columbus, is not what it used to be 10, 20 years ago. And so the way that we police in the 21st century, it has to change. that I've been preaching this for the past 10 or 12 years, that if we do not change the way we police in the 21st century, that society will not only dictate how we police, but they will dictate our policy. We are there now. We see the movements that are moving all around our nation, and we hear people that's talking about defunding police. You don't defund what you need. We need to be able to enhance the training the way that we need to do it in law enforcement. But I'm an advocate for crime in the community, that our agency is working with every federal agency there is in federal government. We have deputies that are assigned to the ATF, the Alcohol Bureau of Tobacco, Firearms, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. We are broadening our resources to provide a greater service to you. We have deputies that are assigned to DEA, U.S. Marshal Services. We work with state agencies too. I checked my phone before I got up here, and one of the things that we did is that we just picked up a person in conjunction with the GBI that was wanted for murder. We have an excellent special response team that we go out and we search for those that commit crimes in Columbus, Georgia, and outside of Columbus, Georgia. But anything that presents a threat to this county or this citizen or this city or the citizens of this city and county, we are working hard to go out there and to eliminate those threats. And so we work greatly with the United States Marshal Services, that when you look on TV and you see people that are arrested for murder, chances are that was the sheriff's office working in conjunction with the United States Marshal Services. We may not answer 911 calls, although that we answer emergency calls. The police department deals with the 911, but we have our own calls that we answer to. And we answer those calls that are very, very dangerous. We have a high-risk warrant unit that we go in and we get out and we get the bad guys. If you go to our Facebook page, you see a number of murder suspects that we've taken in custody in Muscogee County. We will enter into Lee County, Russell County, or any parts of Alabama if we have to. If the crime was committed in Muscogee County, we are going after them. My philosophy on crime in the community may not match what some people may consider friendly, but what we're doing as it relates to gun violence and gang violence in Muscogee County, I'm in talks right now with the United States Attorney for the Georgia Middle District for us to be able to eliminate some of these predicates from our community. Because when they get federal time, they're going to do the majority of that time. And I believe that if we're going to enjoy a better quality of life in our community, that we cannot allow those that commit crimes to re-commit crimes by being sentenced, getting bond, and getting out on bond and committing those same crimes. And if you look at the numbers, a lot of those things are happening in our county. But one of the things that I want to do is to make sure that for those that are committing egregious crimes in our county, that we deal with them where they are. Because I'm not saying that every case needs to be the same way, but I think that we need to take a proactive approach in the way we deal with crime in our community. Because if they commit a federal crime, then they will do federal. If they commit a state crime that lines up with the protocol of what it would take to prosecute that case on a federal level, then they need to be removed from our county. And I'm serious about that, because one of the things that I get every morning along with the police chief are crime stats in our community. And it's not pretty, but it's our job to make sure that we can help you to enjoy a better quality of life. But a little something about the sheriff's office. When most people think about the sheriff's office, they just think about the jail. They think about our courts. But we are comprised of more than just the jail division. We have our operation division, which makes up our investigators, our EOD unit, which is explosives, ordnance, and device units, that we are aligned with Fort Benning, and we have people that are trained out in the military, people that are coming in from different areas. And sometimes we have to deal with issues that deal with explosives or ordinances or whatever there is. We have the fugitive unit, we have our patrol unit, we have dispatch units, patrol units. Our patrol units are doing a great job in our community. I would challenge you guys to go to our Facebook page and look at the number of guns that we are taking off of our streets in Columbus, Georgia. I believe that over the past 90 days that we have taken approximately 80 guns from gang members in our community. Although we have 900 plus members, 900 plus inmates in the jail, we've identified over 241 gangs in Columbus, Georgia. 40 of them are very active in Columbus, Georgia. And so we have some threats that are in our city, but we're doing great things about it. And so I don't want you to think that when we see crime in the community, because oftentimes I get the calls at 1 o'clock in the morning, at 2 o'clock in the morning, about how to fix problems. And so we're very active in the sheriff's office. But besides that, we are working on, we're working with domestic violence issues, because 40% of the murders that we see in Columbus, Georgia are involving domestic issues. And so some people will say, well, why can't you guys go out here and stop crime? Well, if 40% of the homicides in Columbus, Georgia involves murder, we would have to know every argument that's in every household. And some of these things are just impossible to be in every place at every time. But I think for the most part that we have a great community. And one of the things that I would ask you to do is to watch how to protect your home as well. When you leave home in the morning time, I have a pamphlet here for that too. How to protect your home. In Columbus, Georgia, we average over 400 burglaries per month in Muscogee County. I would challenge some of you that when you leave home a little bit early, but just double back and see what do you see differently in your neighborhood. Because some people will case your neighborhood while you sleep. A lot of burglaries happen in the morning time when you go to work. So sometimes just double back and just come back and see what it is that you see. There's a pamphlet that I also do in a training, do you know who's in your church and how to keep the church safe? Churches are soft targets. And when we get comfortable with things and say that everything is okay, violence can happen even in churches. And so we make sure that we also provide training in that area too. For those of you that may have grandkids or young kids, we talk about cyberbullying and how to prevent cyberbullying. But one of the greatest things, and I go right back to it, is crime, how to report a crime. A lot of crime could be solved in Columbus, Georgia, if we would just communicate. When we see things happen, social media is where we get a lot of information from. Whatever happens in our community, you can go to social media and you can get the story first. I know that Chuck would tell you that there's a young teenager that will try to post everything that he sees, and normally he's pretty accurate in what he sees because social media is where it is. But if we see it on social media and they won't call the police, that becomes a problem, because that means that there's a victim somewhere that is suffering because the citizens don't want to communicate with law enforcement. So what we did is we came up with the anonymous tip line, and that tip line has yielded great results for us. That tip line will block the numbers that you call, and if you have credible information, we will work that lead until we can't work it anymore. And so if you have information, please contact the sheriff's office. Our tip line is 706-225-4285. And I will leave these pamphlets here, Mr. President, because we need the information to help solve these crimes. But I don't want you guys to think that I'm up here to talk about all negative things, because there are some positive things that I see happening in our community. And I think that we are a growing community, that we're working with the other agencies in our city to make sure that there's a better quality of life. We're working with the school board police, with Columbus Police Department. We're working with the courts and all. Is my hour up yet, Judge? You're good. Okay, I'm getting close to it. But I wanted to just come, and if there are any questions that you may have, and I know that I covered a little bit of everything, and I made some notes, but when it comes to federal prosecution, understand that I want to make our city safer. I want to help to make our city safer. And if we don't remove certain elements within our city and county, and I'm speaking because I don't know any other way to speak to you, but there are some things in our county that we need to be awfully worried about. I would not sugarcoat anything to you. I think we have great police protection. We have great sheriff's protection. But we need the help of the community. If you have cameras at your house that pick up something, give us that information. If there's a burglary that happened, and if you know something about it, pick up the phone and call us, because we need that information in order to prosecute. As someone that's been in law enforcement for 31 years, I just want a safe community. I have 3 sons, and I want them to have a great quality of life. When I look at you and your family, I want you to have the same thing, but it takes us working together. Thank you for allowing me to indulge you for a few minutes, and I'll keep in line with what the judge said to keep it short and simple. And I want to thank Ryan too, because I asked him, Ryan is the technical guy, and Ryan said, well, when the meeting starts, just look this way. And I asked Ryan, I said, well, what's the best angle? He said, if you can just make a 180 and look this way. So with that being said, I'll make a 360 and just turn around and go to my seat.
We've got time for questions, and I'm sure Sheriff Countryman would be happy to answer those. So what questions do we have from the crowd? Adrian, and please, if you'll come up.
Yes, sir, Sheriff, thank you. What other responsibilities does your office have other than jail, crime?
And if you'll repeat the question.
Sure. The question from Reverend Chester was, what other responsibilities does the sheriff's office have besides the jail? We have the court division. We have patrol division, which cover uniform services. We have a sex offender registry unit that falls under patrol. Our sex offender registry unit is responsible for over 700 people that have committed sexual acts in Columbus, Georgia, against crimes, against youngsters, children, adults. But when they become a sex offender, that they have to register under the sex offender registry, and some of those people are homeless. So trying to track down those people and keep a good eye out on them to make sure that we don't, to make sure that they don't recommit is a tough job. But we have that. We also do dignitary protection for judges, other elected officials. If there are threats, we have an EOD unit that when the president or anyone comes in, that we assist the federal agencies with us going in and using our K9, our bomb dogs and things like that to go in, sweep buildings. We have admin services, which actually cover the administrative side that deals with HR, warrants and things like that. We cover a broad array of things within the sheriff's office. Because the sheriff is the chief law enforcement official for the county, so I have constitutional responsibilities, from enforcing boating laws on the water to if an 18-wheeler turns over on the highway and cattle falls out of the back of the rig. That's the duty of the sheriff, to go out and to do that. So this office of sheriff has been around for a long time. Pastor, if you go to Daniel 3:2, 3:1, when Nebuchadnezzar was assembling those to come to him, the governor and all those, that Shire was there too. So the sheriff, the office of sheriff goes way back. So responsibilities go way back. So, but that's just part of them. Are there any other questions? Sure. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Go ahead. I'll get you last. No, go ahead, Chuck. No, this is my friend, we have a long history. Yeah.
You talk about homeless sex offenders. A lot of people don't realize that there's still a large cluster of them at the Second Avenue and J.R. Allen interchange. They live back in that culvert back there. Are they still there?
Tent City, they are. That runs off of Second Avenue.
Repeat the question.
The Chuck Williams asked that, is there a portion of our city that deals with homeless sex offenders and that they live in wooded areas of the community? That is absolutely true. We have Tent City, and we have to go down there on a regular basis and check them to make sure that they are registering. And some of them cannot get housing because once you run a criminal background, if they have that felony on them, no one will allow them to live with them. And so some of them are just homeless, and so that's the only area that they can live in.
Mr. Sheriff, does Columbus have a gang task force unit?
Columbus used to have a gang task force unit, and I don't want to speak incorrectly, but the police department, they have, I believe, 2 people assigned to the gang task force. The sheriff's office, we have, along with our investigative unit, we have 3 people that are assigned for working gangs. We have probably, according to the FBI, one of the top 3 gang people in the sheriff's office in the state of Georgia. And so we do a lot of intel work with them, but there are gang units that are actively working gangs.
All right, so you got a coordinated task force between the city PD and the sheriff's department, the FBI, ATF, where each member is exclusively assigned to that unit. They meet every day and they discuss what the problem of the day is.
Right. We do that, and we're actually working towards some things, but one of the greatest challenges that we face is personnel. Although that we have other challenges, is how do you move personnel from one spot to augment something else that happens to be an issue as well. And so that's why we work with the FBI here too. The police department and the sheriff's office, they have a great gang intel unit, but a lot of things that when we deal with gang intel, if we're going to work towards RICO charges and things like that, that will put them in jail, because sometimes it's hard to prosecute them if you don't have the right evidence. So sometimes it takes us 6-7 months in order to gather the right evidence to actually prosecute them, because one of the worst things that we can do is have a little something and go to court and they beat that case and they come back even stronger. So we are really working. We are not afraid of the gang members in Columbus. I think that, honestly speaking, that we probably don't have enough manpower to deal with it, and that's why we have to collaborate, working together with the police department, sheriff's office, and the FBI. But the FBI has a great gang unit here, and we meet with them on a regular basis, and we are serious about some of the things that we do. But we've been able to remove a lot of heavy gang activity in Columbus, Georgia. We have removed a lot of it. We have what's called, I would say satellite gangs that are not, that they may, east side may have their own gangs. West side may have their own gangs, but they are not affiliated with the national gangs like the Rolling Crips or the Gangster Disciples, Zohannans, and things like that. Those are some of the more dangerous gangs that we have in Columbus. But we're working and we're partnering with Cure Violence, and because violence, if we don't look at it from a health perspective as well, we're going to miss the mark. And so it's working in collaboration with everybody, from the mental health to the medical piece of it and to the criminal piece of it. Yes, ma'am.
Chairman, I have 2 questions. One
Okay.
is just to clarify, I didn't understand when we talked about moving some perpetrators out of Muscogee County. Did you mean from the Muscogee County jail to a federal institution?
Yes, and the question was that for me to provide a little bit clarity about moving suspects from Muscogee County into the federal system. When we have people that commit crimes, and they are egregious crimes with guns, gangs, violence, anything of that, the federal government has a criteria that we have to meet first. And what we try to do is to make sure that we can meet that criteria. Absolutely, yes, I want them out of Muscogee County. If they want to go to Washington State or Oregon, because once you are prosecuted at the federal level, they don't have to keep you in Georgia. They can make it really difficult for you. And so we need to send a message. We have Fort Benning that's next to us. We don't have the same level of crime on Fort Benning, because if you commit a crime on federal property and you go to federal court, they make a federal example of you. And not saying anything about the courts that we have here in Muscogee County, but when you're doing the majority of your time, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about probation or, these other plea bargains and things like that, you do your time. And that's the message that I want to send to criminals in Columbus, Georgia. If you commit a crime here, we're going to send you somewhere to where your family can't visit you. You had a second question?
And family is my second question.
Okay.
A lot of what I'm reading tells me that there's a very high percentage of people who are incarcerated who have absent fathers. And I'm wondering if the Sheriff's Department is involved in any kind of fatherhood initiative.
Right. The question was is that from what she's reading, a lot of the people that commit crimes are absence of fathers in the household. We do have a we have a fatherhood dorm in the Muscogee County Jail. I teach them leadership class and fatherhood classes within that dorm. We have other city officials, Counselor Barnes. He also teach fatherhood courses. Our city manager. There are a lot of men that have just made mistakes, and they really want to be providers, but they've been in bad situations. And so I'm working in conjunction with some of the businesses now that will hire felons through a work release program, but there's a strict criteria for that, because one of the concerns that I have is that if you're in jail and if you're paying child support, how is that child or that mother being affected that needs that? So when you have someone that's in jail that may be on a misdemeanor charge that they violated their probation, but they don't pose a threat, we can put an ankle bracelet on them and make sure that they get money going back to the place to where the money needs to go. Because coming from a home that I was raised by a single mother, I understand that when you divide and break up a household, the effects of what goes on in a household when you don't have the income coming in.
Got one question. Is there any job openings for any of these families who have younger generations at the Sheriff's Department? Job openings?
We do have about 40 job openings within the Muscogee County Sheriff's Office. Most of those job vacancies are within the Muscogee County Jail. But one of the things also that I felt to mention, and I see some people walking out, so the judge said that when you see people walking, to sit down. But let me just finish up this right here. See, and the judge is very, very hard on me, but that's my mentor also. But we do have vacancies within the Muscogee County Jail. I tried to tell a joke and it slipped my mind. But we do have job vacancies within the county jail, and we welcome those that want to come to work for a great agency. Thank you.
I was asked that you would share a little bit more about your relationship with Cure Violence.
Wanted me to share a little bit more about my relationship with Cure Violence. Cure Violence is something that I believe in. The city of Columbus, our mayor has embraced Cure Violence. Cure Violence is a national program that looks at, as I mentioned earlier, that looks at crime from a mental health perspective, from a social economic aspect. Because when we look at mental health, that there are studies that show that poverty breeds mental health. Because people that live in underserved communities, that they experience things differently, they're treated differently. I know some of these things because I've seen it firsthand. And so Cure Violence addresses everything from mental health to jobs to how to interview for jobs to how to get the whole person ready for society. And it's something that I endorse along with Mayor Henderson and the police chief the city of Columbus. But Cure Violence is a great program, and I thank you for your work and the work that Reggie Lewis also does with Cure Violence. But together, our motto in the sheriff's office, together, working together, accomplishing great things. If we can work together, we can accomplish great things because we have a great community with great leaders, and I really want to see the next generation prosper and do well, and because we need to leave a legacy and say that we did it right on our watch. Thank you.
Sheriff Countryman, thank you so much for your remarks today, for the great job that you and your staff are doing to protect our community, and let us know so that we can be engaged and be, your volunteer force, to go out in the community to help where we can. Want to remind everybody that there will be a broadcast of today's meeting on our Facebook page, as well as a YouTube link that will be going out later on. Next week's program is Chris Largent. He's the Executive Director of the Chattahoochee River Keepers. So that'll be a great program. Again, if you're not on the standing reservation list and you'd like to be on the standing reservation list, please let us know. But if you're going to be here in person and you're not on that list, please do let us know so that we can make sure there's room for everybody. Everybody have a great week. Let's get to work.